Hello everyone and welcome with the first live cooking workshop this month. My name is Emma and I will be delivering these live workshops every Wednesday at 12 o'clock this month. And I will be showing some healthy recipes. So I'm doing this with the YCA Sandwell. And today...
Ask if they can hear you.
Oh, and I'm just checking if you guys can hear me. If not... you can always put like a comment into the chat box. Just let me know if you don't hear me well enough and I can adjust that for you as well. So with today's workshop, we're going to focus on breakfast. So I'm going to demonstrate two different recipes, two of my favorites really. And maybe I can inspire you with trying something else. Let me know in the comment box if you normally have like other types of breakfast or maybe something different. And if you have any questions, just put that in the chat box below. So before we start with the cooking, it is good to have just a quick read through the health and safety checklist, which is in the description. So it's always good to keep yourself safe, really, when you're doing the cooking. I'm not able to see you or assist you during the cooking, so it's good to just read those bullet lists, just to keep you and the people around you in the kitchen safe. Because obviously we are working with knives and with hot equipment. So make sure that you are mindful with using them and keep the floor free of materials as well. So today will be about breakfast, but next week will be about lunch. Then the week after we're gonna do some snacks and beverages. And then the last week will be about dinner. So my aim with these workshops really is to show some healthy, balanced recipes and hopefully inspire you in trying something new. Okay, so before we're gonna start, I'm gonna give some people more time to join in with the workshop today. So I was thinking we could do a little activity about different types of breakfast cereals. So the topic of today really is about sugar. And I want you to have a guess in how much sugar are in these cereals. So some people maybe already joined my workshops in February about healthy eating, and one of the workshops was about sugar and diabetes. So hopefully the people who are watching that also joined the workshop, hopefully you still remember what the recommendation was of how much sugar you can have every day, but it was 30 grams. 30 grams is like the limit of sugar that we are allowed to have every day. And if we have too much sugar in our diet, that can lead to some health complications and also bad teeth. So if you think about 30 grams, that's roughly 7 teaspoons of sugar, or 7 cubes of sugar, roughly. And there are lots of foods out there that contain lots of sugar, and breakfast cereals is one of those. You have to be careful with how much sugar is actually in there. So if you have a guess with the first one, porridge, plain porridge or porridge, there's no added sugar or no milk added, nothing. How much sugar do you think is in there? So if you want to have a guess, you can put it in the chat box, but don't feel obligated that you have to. I'm going to give you the answers anyway. So one portion of porridge will be like 40 grams in your bowl, 40 grams of porridge. And the amount of sugar would be 0.4 grams. So that's actually very little. That's about less than a teaspoon of sugar. So I'm going to show that to you as well. So about 1/10 of sugar, really little. So that's a lower sugar option. Obviously, if you're going to add any honey to it or any fruit or milk, you would add some sugars into that as well. Then the next one, Weetabix, very popular in England. So plain Weetabix, not flavored with any cacao or with any other additives like fruits. This is just the original one. If you have 2 pieces of Weetabix, how much sugar do you think is in there? So have a rough guess in your head on how many grams of sugar in 2 pieces of Weetabix would be in. All right, so in 2 pieces of Weetabix, there would be 2 grams of sugar. So that is not that much either. It's like half a teaspoon of sugar. So if you compare that to the 7 teaspoons you can have every day, it's not that much. So I'm gonna show you how that looks like. Just gonna add a little bit more. So this in total would roughly look like as half a teaspoon of sugar. So it's not a bad option. And if you want to sweeten it naturally, you can add some of your own fruits in there as well, or maybe some nuts and seeds to make it more interesting, or some cinnamon or some cacao powder can be quite nice as well. So the next one, plain cornflakes. So a portion of that would also be 30 grams of cornflakes. And have a little guess on how much sugar would be in there. So it would be roughly 2.4 grams of sugar in one portion of cornflakes. So this is also quite plain. Be careful when it's cornflakes that is sugar coated, because obviously there would be more sugar to it, or when it says with real honey, sounds really healthy, but at the end of the day, honey counts towards your sugar intake as well. So that will be a little bit more than half a teaspoon of sugar in one portion of cornflakes. So I'm just gonna add a little sprinkle extra. Oh, just a tiny bit. Then the next one, Dorset cereals. 50% of it is made with fruits. There's no any other added sugar, but keep in mind that dried fruit is quite concentrated in sugar as well, so it does add up. So one portion is a little bit heavier than other cereals, but it's like 45 grams would be considered as a portion of Dorset cereals. And the amount of sugar would be roughly 7.9 grams. So that's already quite a lot more. Some people think that this is actually quite low in sugar because it looks quite healthy and there's loads of fruit in it, but the dried fruit does add to the total sugars. So that would be roughly 2 teaspoons of sugar. So if I'm gonna measure that out, a little bit extra. So this is roughly 1 teaspoon plus another 2 teaspoons of sugar just in one portion of breakfast. So it's already adding up. Then we got this one, quite popular amongst kids. So Cocoa Puffs. One portion of Cocoa Puffs would be roughly 30 grams as well. That is one portion. And the amount of sugar in here is already 9 grams of sugar. So that's already quite a lot more, which is a bit more than 2 teaspoons of sugar, like 2 teaspoons and a quarter. So if you think about, you can only have 30 grams of sugar a day. This is almost a third of your allowance just with your breakfast. And you maybe drink like a glass of orange juice with it, for example, or some people add some extra sugar into it. So it kind of adds up like that. So I'm gonna measure that out for you as well. So we already got 2 teaspoons and a quarter. This would be in one portion of Cocoa Puffs, which is quite a lot. The next one, Frosties, also quite a popular cereal amongst kids. So this is cornflakes, but sugar coated. So that increases the sugar intake in this one as well. So with this one, in 30 grams of Cocoa Puffs, there would be already 11 grams of sugar. So it's already a little bit more, so a little bit less than 3 teaspoons of sugar would be in Frosties. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more to that. And then the last one, Crunchy Nut. Also a popular one. Quite often it says like with real honey, things like that. But it does add the amount of sugar to it. It does taste quite sweet if you have tasted it before. So one portion is also 30 grams. And it has 11 grams of sugar into it. So quite similar as the Frosties. So that's a little bit less than 3 teaspoons as well. So if you think about it, you can only have like 7 teaspoons of sugar every day. And if you have like the high sugar cereals, that's almost already a third of your allowance that day. And this is for a portion that they would recommend, like 30 grams. But some people would fill up the bowl like completely to the edge and would have like twice the recommended amount. So that really adds up with your sugar intake. Okay, so next part, we're gonna get started with the cooking. So I hope that I can inspire you with some new recipes. And these ones are quite low in added sugar, low in fat as well, and quite high in fiber. And they do contain some fruits as well. So hopefully that can help you with starting the day in a healthy way. All right, so I'm gonna start with the yogurt sundae first. So I've chosen a glass for this one. You don't have to, but it looks quite fancy because we're gonna layer all the ingredients. Then I also have some yogurt. I've chosen a soy-based yogurt, but you can use normal yogurt if you wanted to. Works perfectly the same. I have got some banana. It's a small one. If you got a big one, try to use half. I have an orange. And I also have a date, just to sweeten it up on the top, sprinkle it over the top and give a nice sweet flavor. All right, so I'm gonna start with the orange. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna place this on my placemat and I'm gonna hold this in like a bridge position with my hands. So it's a safer way of cutting the orange in half, just to keep my fingers safe. And I'm gonna cut it in half. Then half of the orange, I'm gonna squeeze that out into one of the bowls. So just a little bit. And I forgot to mention I got some blueberries as well. They go with the breakfast of the yogurt sundae as well. Then I'm gonna grab some yogurt. So depending on how hungry you are and how big your bowl is, I'm gonna use 3 tablespoons in the orange juice. And I'm gonna mix that together. So you got a really nice orangey flavor. Like some people buy like fruit flavored yogurts, like strawberry yogurt, honey yogurt, vanilla yogurt, but they tend to be quite high in sugar. So if you flavor it with a little bit of fruit yourself, you're not adding like as much sugar and it's a bit more nutritious as well. So I'm gonna mix that together. So it gets a bit consistent. So there's a little bit of an orangey look, a nice smell to it as well, and a nice orangey flavor. Next one, the blueberries. So I just added a little bit, because otherwise it's definitely not going to fit in my glass. And I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of yogurt in there as well, and you can mix it too. That's 2 and 3. Okay, so I'm gonna mix that together as well. And now you got like a really nice purple color. Bit similar like the yogurt you buy from the supermarket as well with blueberry. You see like a nice color. But this is all natural. And when you make things yourself, homemade, you are in control what you actually put in. So I can come a little bit closer. You can actually see it. So nice purple color. Looking good. Okay, so I'm gonna put those 2 apart for now. And I'm gonna chop up my fruit. So here I already got my orange in half. So I'm gonna put the flat surface down. So I got a stable surface. And I'm gonna take off the skin. we're gonna chop that up in small pieces. So we can add that as well to the sundae. And be careful with your fingers once again. And when you got all the skin off, chop that into small pieces in whatever shape you prefer. And if you have any other fruits, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be these type of fruits. These are just my favorites. But if you have like any other berries or any other frozen fruits, you can use that as well. Doesn't really matter, it's whatever you like most. Okay, so I got my orange cut up. Then I'm gonna do the banana. So, and also here, be careful with how you cut. I tend to use like the claw with my fingers, so my nails are back and my thumb is behind my fingers, just to make sure I don't accidentally cut in my finger. And I'm gonna slice them up. This is quite nice to do with your family as well, if your kids like cooking. And they can make like their own fruit sundae, get a little bit involved. And then I'm gonna chop up the date as well. So I'm gonna take out the pit and I'm gonna chop that up into small pieces, as tiny as possible, so it spreads out a little bit more over the breakfast. So. And if you guys got any questions about breakfast or sugar or any other topic, feel free to put that in the chat box. So I got the date chopped up in small pieces. So now I'm going to layer it. So I'm gonna start with some of the orange. It doesn't really matter which one you start with. Just gonna put like 1 or 2 spoons into the cup. And 2. I'm gonna add a little bit of fruit on it. Oh. And a little bit of banana. Or whatever fruit you have. So, and then I'm going to add the blueberries, half of it roughly. So I got a nice few layers. And the benefit with the glass is that you can see like some layers in it as well. So it looks a bit pretty, representable. So, another bit of fruit. So, and I'm gonna top it up with a little bit more, see what fits in my glass. It's not a very big one. A little bit more of the blueberries. I'm gonna have a little left over. That's not a crime. So nice and colorful. And then the last bit with some fruits. Making it look a little bit nice. And then you can top it off with some dates on top. Little decoration, little bit of flavor. And if you feel like you're missing like something crunchy, you can always add some crunched nuts, for example, or a little bit of low sugar granola. You can really do your own thing with it. But it has like loads of fruits in it. There's protein in it, calcium in it, and loads of fiber, so that keeps you fuller for longer during the day as well. And it just looks pretty. So if you were cooking along, I hope yours is looking quite nice as well. So I'm gonna put that one aside, and we're gonna move on to the next breakfast. Okay, so this one is gonna be an overnight apple porridge. So the first time when I tried porridge was a few years back, which was in Australia. And I thought, oh, that's handy. Just a little bit of plain porridge in like one of those little package with, I think I made it with water. And I put it in the microwave. I had a taste and it was terrible. It was, I thought never again. Porridge is disgusting. That was my opinion. But later on, I found out that there are some really nice recipes out there with porridge, and you can flavor it really nice with fruit or other herbs. For example, cinnamon or cacao is a really nice addition as well. So if you're experienced with porridge, just let me know in the chat box and share your recipes. I'm more than happy to try those out as well. So one of my favorites is with apple and cinnamon, and I make that the evening before. So when I make it, I put it in the fridge, and then the next morning I can eat it straight away. So I don't have to do anything in the morning, and that saves me some time. So you can try that out if you want to. It's actually quite nice. So I'm gonna start with the apple, so make sure it is washed. I'm gonna use some cinnamon for my recipe. Here I got some plain porridge oats. I got some chia seeds. That's just because I like it and it has a lot of fibers into it as well and some healthy fats. But don't feel obligated using this, you don't have to. If you wanted to add like something extra to it, you can add some nuts and seeds or linseeds, for example. So it doesn't have to be chia seeds per se. And then also some milk. In this case, I'm using soy milk. I actually think it's a really nice flavor in breakfast cereals and porridge. But if you use normal milk, perfectly fine. So I'm gonna start with chopping up the apple. And I'm doing that a little bit different. And that's purely because of the texture. So once again, with the apple, use like the claw grip and slice one part just next to the middle of the apple, so you got a flat surface. And we're just gonna cut around the heart of the apple, and we're gonna put that away. Now then, this is just my style. You can chop it whatever way you want, but I tend to cut it in like really small sticks, and that's just because I like the texture of it. But you can also just grate the apple, has a really nice flavor too, or just chop them up in small pieces. Whatever you prefer. I just like that better than chunky bits of apple. So I'm gonna start with slicing up the apple. So. And then with each slice, I'm gonna turn that into really thin sticks. So it's gonna look like that. I'm gonna stand a little bit closer because it's really tiny. Just small sticks. And I'm gonna put that into my cereal bowl. I might have a little bit too much apple for what fits, but you can always use that for a snack later on. And you can use other fruits as well, like other favorites with porridge is with frozen blueberries. It's quite nice too. I always have a bag of frozen blueberries in my freezer, so they're always ready. It doesn't really expire that way, and they are cheaper than fresh blueberries as well, and they are just as healthy. Like some people think that frozen fruit is less healthy than fresh, but that's not really the case. It's just as healthy and cheaper, so go for it. And another one of my favorites is with banana. It has like a really nice, natural, sweet flavor. And it gives like a particular texture as well, a little bit more creamy in a sense. It's quite nice. So let me know in the comment box what you think about porridge. Have you ever tried it or not? Or what is your favorite recipe? And just cut in your own time, don't feel rushed. So I'm gonna use half an apple, just because it otherwise doesn't fit in my, my cereal bowl. But I can always have this later for a snack, or you could use it for like the yogurt sundae. So I would say a little bit more than half of my cereal bowl is filled with chopped apples. So then I'm gonna use porridge. So what we did with the game earlier on as well, with porridge we used like 40 grams. So I'm gonna measure out 40 grams on my scale. If you don't have measuring scales, it's roughly like 5 or 6 tablespoons. So you could do that alternatively as well. Yeah. And 40 grams. So it's gonna roughly look like that. I'm gonna stand a little bit closer so you can see that better. So now it's time to flavor it up a bit. So I'm going to add some cinnamon. You can just use as much as you like. Maybe you like a strong cinnamony flavor, maybe just a little bit. Or maybe you prefer nutmeg, for example, it's quite nice. Or mixed spices can be really tasty as well. And then I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of chia seeds. Or you can use crunched nuts as well. Or maybe a little bit of dried fruit if you prefer. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. So. Then I'm gonna mix it all together. And if you do this a few times, you get quicker in it as well. But yeah, the main purpose really of overnight oats is that it saves you a lot of time in the morning. You can just get it out of the fridge. Yeah, but raisins is a really nice idea as well. Yeah, or other dried fruit can be really tasty. You will probably hear me say this more often during all the workshops, but variation and moderation is really key. So have a variation of different foods, and that includes with your breakfast as well. So maybe sometimes you can go for porridge, sometimes for yogurt, maybe you like eggs in the morning or a slice of toast. There's so many options that you can go for breakfast in the morning, and it just helps you start the day well with a good mood, plenty of energy. And lots of good nutrients as well. So I'm gonna add the milk. So I'm using rolled oats. You can use like instant oats as well. It's just a little bit smaller. That's perfectly fine. And the main difference really with it is with making your porridge yourself. Is that it's lower in sugar once again as well. Like maybe in the supermarket, you've seen those instant oats in a jar with extra flavors to it, like apple cinnamon is out there, maple syrup or berries or even chocolate. So with those, quite often there's a lot of added sugar to it. So be careful with that. You can see that on the traffic light label on the front of the jar as well. Like those colors, green, orange and red. So if you see the sugar one and it's red, you know it's quite high in sugar. But if you make it yourself, You can flavor it with fruit or a little bit of honey, at least as it's less than the added sugar in the ready-to-go porridge. So I'm gonna add my milk. So depending on how much you have in your bowl, I'm just gonna fill it up until the apples are just under the milk. So you don't have to fill the milk up all the way to the edge, just as long as everything is under the milk. You don't want it too watery the next day. So I'm just gonna mix it a little so that all the flavors are mixed. So at the moment, it looks quite watery. So it's gonna look like that. If you can see that, I cannot tilt it too far. So it looks quite watery. But if you put it into the fridge overnight, the oats will soak up all the milk and the cinnamon and the apple flavor. And the chia seeds will soak up some of the milk as well. So they will get like sort of jelly in a sense. So you can cover that up with a plate or with some plastic or some foil, whatever works, just to prevent like that nothing else comes into your porridge in the fridge to keep it safe. And then I already have an example of how it's going to look like in the morning. So this I made last night, and you can see that the porridge has soaked up all of the milk. The chia seeds are expanded as well. And it's basically ready to go. And if you like it warm, you can put it into the microwave as well. So that's one way of making your porridge. Okay. So someone else mentions as well that they like to add chia seeds to, I think, lunch. Is what you're trying to say there, even if they are not 100% healthy. Well, they are quite healthy. If you do look at the food traffic light label here at the front, you might have noticed that when it says fat, I'm going to stand a little bit closer so you can see that better. But you can see that there's a red color with the total fat. So sometimes people think like, oh, that's a red color, that's not good. But fat, we do need some fat in our diet, and fat can contain some really good vitamins as well, and gives us some energy. And there are good fats that we need in our diet. So don't get scared straight away when you do see it, but be mindful when it comes to heavily processed foods. And with heavily processed foods, I mean like chocolate, cake, biscuits, crisps, like those are like the heavy processed foods. But this is quite a natural one. And that's the same for nuts. Nuts is quite a healthy food too, but a bit higher in fat. So with these foods, it really comes to portion size. So don't eat like loads of it because you don't need that. But if you add like some chia seeds to your lunch or to your breakfast, it can actually be quite nice. Another question, never had frozen fruit? Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. It's just as healthy as fresh fruit. So you can use that as well. Okay, so we done the 2 recipes for the breakfast today. So I hope it was informative. I hope I have inspired you in trying out something different. So I've done this workshop with my own business, My Health Target. So I got a website and a Facebook website as well. So you can see that in the description below as well if you wanted to take a look. So next week we're gonna do lunch, and the ingredients will be posted on the YCA Sandwell Facebook page. Maybe you're from Let's Talk Hope, from Amina's page. So you will see the ingredients list on there as well. And I hope you want to cook along with me next week. So thank you very much for coming. If you have any other questions, you can ask me. And otherwise, you can just put it on a comment list as well, and I can get back to you. Okay. Let me see if there is anything else. No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for attending today, and I really hope I see you back next week again. Take care, guys. Enjoy your day.